When we talk about generational trauma, we are talking about something that often lives in silence. And it doesn't always show up in the form of a story passed down. And it's not always, oh, this happened to me and now I'm telling you, right? That would be too easy and too straightforward. More often, it shows up in the way a voice sharpens when someone's scared, and in the way love is withheld when you're not performing a certain role. In the subtle, unspoken contracts we inherit about who we're meant to be in the family, who gets to rest, who must caretake, who can be soft, and who has to hold it all together. And sometimes the original trauma, whether that's war, poverty, oppression, or a significant loss. So sometimes these original trauma didn't happen to you directly, but your body still feels its echoes. And it can show up in the guilt you feel for resting, and in the way your stomach tightens when you say no to someone's request, in the pressure to achieve or to stay alert, to be the one who holds the pieces together. And you might find yourself afraid of letting people down, even when you're already at capacity. Or again, you might find yourself questioning whether you're allowed to live a softer life than your parents did. And these patterns aren't personal flaws, they are survival strategies that once made sense. And maybe they didn't even make sense to you, but it made sense to your family and the family before yours. And that helped your family or the family before yours to stay alive and to stay connected, or just simply to cope. But now in your life, especially if you've moved far away from home, started a new chapter, or you've chosen a different path, those strategies might no longer serve you. They might even make it harder to feel at home in the life you're trying to build. And this is where the work begins. Not to reject where we come from, but to understand it, to hold it with compassion, to ask, what of this still belongs to me, and what can I choose to set down? Hi, and welcome back to We're Here Too, a podcast about mental health and life abroad. I am Francesca, an Italian counsellor living in Scotland. This season, we've been exploring relationships, the ones we have with ourselves, with others, and the world around us. Sometimes what we carry is invisible. It's not the luggage packed for the holidays back home, of course, or the accent we've softened to fit in. It's the scripts we inherited without knowing about what love looks like, or how we are allowed to express pain, or who we are expected to become. And this episode is about the invisible weight of generational patterns and what happens when we decide not to carry them any longer. And maybe in your family, emotions weren't talked about openly, or anger was dangerous, or achievement was the only way to earn love, or compliance. And these are the unspoken rules. They are quiet, consistent patterns that shaped how we relate to others and ourselves. And even when we move away across countries and across time zones, these patterns do not disappear. And they live in our body, in how we respond to conflict, in how we set boundaries or we don't set boundaries, in what feels like too much to say out loud. And the body does not forget. Even if your mind knows you're safe now, your body may still be on high alert. And the body remembers. Our cells have membranes, and they don't shut everything out. They let in nutrients and send out waste. And I'm talking about anatomy here because I think we inherently know what it means to set up boundaries, and I'm sure I've explored these in other episodes before, and I would like to reconfirm this concept, which I really find very beautiful, And that was inspired by this great book that I read by Abigail Rose Clark, Returning Home to Our Bodies. That our bodies already has within itself that type of knowledge. And this is what we can aspire to. And so, these membranes that are keeping nutrients in, or they're letting them in and they're sending out waste, that's the type of boundaries we want, because these membranes are always responding to their environment and they're choosing what comes in and what moves out. And that's what boundaries can look like, right? They're not walls, but they're porous, they're living, they are dynamic. And this metaphor speaks beautifully to navigating generational trauma across distance. You don't have to shut out your family to protect yourself. And you can learn to metabolize what's passed down, to choose what you carry forward and what you want to compost. And when you choose to live differently, in our case, we decide to move away, or in other cases, it could also be like, saying like, this is ending with me. I'm not gonna carry this forward. There can be guilt in it. And guilt for not having more choices than our parents did. Guilt for needing space from the people who raised us. Guilt for feeling anger when we are taught to be grateful. And we can open many parentheses here around this, right? Like, I have a lot of stories. But there's something else as well. There's something that really matters. And just because we inherited something that doesn't, whatever that is, it doesn't mean we have to keep it. And just because we are working to change it, doesn't mean we owe our family our healing. You want to do this for you, right? Like, so you're not flooded by what doesn't belong to you. And I do want this for you, so that you're not carrying what was never yours to begin with, so that your days feel more spacious, so love feels less tangled, and so your anger doesn't drain you and eat your brain alive, but moves through you in a way that's honest and clear, and that will show in the way you set boundaries, right? Like, so life becomes just a little more manageable, and not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer ruled by what was passed down. And remember, you're not the only link in the chain, okay? And this part is so important. You're not responsible for healing every wound your lineage carries. Sometimes we hear, oh, you're the cycle breaker. And while that can feel empowering, right? It can also be isolating, so heavy. Like, we have to get it right. And for everyone who came before and everyone who might come after. I mean, it would be great, right? Like, but, that's a lot of responsibility. And here we're trying to set up a boundary, okay? So the responsibility doesn't fall on us only. And it shouldn't fall on us only because we decided to move away, to move abroad. Okay, the two things are not connected whatsoever. But we are allowed to go gently and to pass some things on and trust the next generation to shape them too, right? So what do you want to carry? What are you already composting? What are you already breaking down and repurposing and letting go? And how does distance, whether that's physical or emotional, give you the space to decide? Maybe healing doesn't always mean going back and fixing everything. Maybe it's also about creating something new from where you are. I said it once and I said it again. The body can teach us the type of boundaries we aspire for. Porous, living, and dynamic. And you don't have to shut out your family to protect yourself. You can learn to metabolize what's passed down, to choose what you carry forward and what you want to compost. For me, one of the things that I've had to compost over and over again is fear. I inherited the idea that the world isn't safe, that people are always out to get me, to trick me, to exploit my trust. And it was everywhere growing up, not always said directly, but felt, it was implied and modeled. Even though I didn't experience the world in that way, not to a point that I would be alarmed by it, my body learned the script, right? And when I'm tired, overwhelmed, or navigating something uncertain, that old fear still whispers, like, be careful, you can't trust anyone. And it took a lot of work to recognize that voice as something I had inherited and not something I had chosen. And to begin separating it from who I actually am, to finally say, this fear does not belong to me. It was handed to me by people who were trying to protect me in the only way they knew how. And that's the work of composting. It's not erasing what came before, but breaking it down slowly, gently, into something you can grow from. And yet, even as I carried that inherited fear, there was also another truth living in my body too, right? But because something in me kept resisting it, I still moved abroad multiple times. I still boarded planes with no set plans, only a couple of nights booked in a hotel. And that, what I would call quiet trust that I would figure things out. And my body might have been shaped by fear, but it also had something else, something that said, it's okay to go. And, very excited, like a cheerleader, right? And there's been for sure courage and curiosity and maybe just a deep longing for something different. And I think that's important to name, that even when we carry the weight of old stories that do not belong to us, but they became part of us, we are not only shaped by them, we are not only them. I was not only fearful Francesca, although at a certain point in my life, that would be a recognizable nickname for a younger me. I was also something else. I was bold, I was courageous, and I was incredibly creative. I could dream big, bigger than could have ever, aspire to. I could dream I would rule the world, And this is to remember, guys, that we also carry the seeds of something new, and we just need to pay attention. So I hope, I'm leaving you with this question. What seeds are you carrying with you today? Thank you for staying for another episode. I do really, really appreciate your support. Remember to subscribe, share with everyone in your life who can be interested in a podcast about mental health and life abroad. I also would like to invite you to connect with me and let me know what you think. But also, I know I said in the past that I would look at having guests on my podcast. Unfortunately, up until very recently, I had no capacity to do that. I miscalculated my energies, capacity, and so on and so forth. But now I do have space for that. And so if you consider yourself a foreigner, so someone who moved abroad and lives abroad, and you have anything that you would like to share with us about relationship, because this season is going till the end of the year, for sure. Maybe with a break in summer, but I still need to figure that out. I'm not that organized. Well, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. And stay tuned for an episode next week. Bye.